Hi, my name is Nate Beckman. I graduated from Grandview in 1990, and I am currently serving a 25-year prison sentence at the Iowa State Penitentiary in Fort Madison. I was really happy when I heard that Clay Tarbell was putting together a video titled, How Christian Education is a Waste of Time, and How All My Problems Are Grandview's Fault. What's that? There are two? Clay's doing two. This is the first one. Oh, good things. Okay. Sorry, my bad. Let's start over. Hi, my name's Nate Beckman. I did graduate from Grandview in 1990, but since 2003 I have been a church planting missionary here in Bangkok, Thailand. We have been in our current location on the west side of Bangkok in an area called Bin Klao since 2009, and we are working at planting a church in this area right now. I would like, if you don't mind, to take a moment and tell you what GPS means to me. I love Grandview. I loved every year I had at Grandview. There will always be someone who will be happy to tell you why Grandview was a big problem, why his life is a mess because of Grandview, or what the things that they didn't like, what they received at Grandview. I'm not that guy. To me, Grandview was great. And as I have had time to reflect on why I love Grandview so much, it really comes down to the people of Grandview, and that is the teachers. I spent 1 year in public school, and that was kindergarten. The conclusion of my teacher at that public school was that Nate Beckman is average or below average. And she was onto something. I am average. I have never been the smartest guy in the room, even when I was the only guy in the room. I was never a star athlete. I was never the guy without which the team could not win. I was never the guy that the team needed in those final seconds of a game to do something great. That wasn't me. However, every teacher I ever had at Grandview made me feel as though I was important. They made me feel as though I mattered. That was not my experience at the public school. So to this day, I can name every teacher without having to write it down on a piece of paper. Every teacher I had from first grade on. First grade was Miss Smith. Second grade was Miss Gearhart. Third grade, Miss Carey. Fourth grade, Mrs. Howard. Fifth grade, Miss Klimek. Sixth grade, Mr. Volker. Seventh grade, Miss Easter. Eighth grade, Mr. Volker. And into high school, my advisors were Mr. McWilliams and Mr. Bookhouse. And then teachers that became very special people to me and good friends in their own right, people like Mrs. Warner, the Fishers, Mr. and Mrs. Fisher, and Miss Funtick too. When this became even more of a reality to me about how they treated me so special and how I felt when from just them being in my life, when I went to college, Miss Smith, who taught at Faith when I was in college, she still remembered my favorite book from first grade, and that was, by the way, The Adventures of Brer Rabbit. Since I have been a missionary in Thailand, I have received gifts and letters of encouragement from Mrs. Howard, my fourth grade teacher. I worked at the fairgrounds during the summer while I was in high school with guys like Mr. Volker and Mr. Curry. Some of you might remember Mr. Curry. Both those guys, you would have a hard time. You'd be pressed to find someone as godly as those two guys. And each of those guys took a personal interest in me. Mr. Curry, in fact, years after we had worked together, years after he had moved back to Nebraska, I sent him an invitation to my wedding. He called me personally and said that he would not be able to come to my wedding. However, he was excited for me and he wished me the best. He called me. I lived with the Fishers for part of my, about a month in my freshman year of high school while my parents were on deputation. That was their first year at Grandview. They didn't know me very well. They didn't know my parents very well. But they opened up their home to me, and I still consider them personal friends. I have no idea what they think of me now, but I consider them friends. Over the years, Linda Warner has been like a sister to me. I have stayed with the Warners on a number of occasions, and they have been to Thailand. Their whole family has been here to visit me here. I'm saying all this with full recognition and admitting publicly I was just one of Grandview's average guys. So I can't imagine how great it was for people who were above average. I did nothing that stood out. However, all these teachers, they all treated me as if I was someone special. The difference maker was that they treated me that way even when I was no longer in their classrooms. Now, I have to say that truly my values, who I am and what I believe, that comes from my godly parents. What I believe about the Bible and doing ministry probably comes from time spent in seminary as well as from learning from missionaries on the mission field. But how I view people, how I treat people, and all the ministries I have I've been a part of. I've always tried to treat people and each person that walks into the church or into my youth group when I was in America to feel special because they are special. And that is something that I received from my time at Grandview. To be honest, I'm still really sad. I'm not sure how I'm supposed to feel about Grandview Park Baptist School closing its doors. I virtually know nothing about what happened, and I only know, frankly, that there's another Christian school named Grandview Christian School that's being started. So I guess the only thing that I can say that is of value for what you're doing this evening is that much of how I treat people today, much of how I view people who walk into the doors of my church here in Bangkok, Thailand, is a result of how I was treated when I was at Grandview. I never felt though as though I was just a student. I always felt as though I was important to that teacher's life. There are people in Thailand some 24 years after my graduation from Grandview who are receiving the blessings of the work of those difference makers, my teachers at Grandview. To me, that is a legacy that is worth carrying on and continuing on into the future. And that's really all I have to say. I hope you guys have a great night.